Welcome to the 113th episode of the Flipped Learning Network podcast. I'm your host, Troy Cockrum, along with my co-host, Joan Brown. Today on the show, we have Lisa Palmieri, correct?
You got it, yeah.
And Lisa tell us who you are, Lisa, and what it is that you do.
Sure. So I am a director of technology and what we call learning innovation and the head of the computer science department at a private school in Pittsburgh called the Ellis School.
And the reason I brought Lisa on was she does some innovative things in professional development, and a lot of our listeners are involved in planning and implementing professional development. So we thought that would be a good episode, or good topic for this episode. And the first thing we'd like to talk about with you, Lisa, is this Innovation Fellows program that you started. Can you give us a synopsis of what this is?
Sure. So Innovation Fellows really came out of the need for more kind of coaching across the school. And when I first started at my school, I definitely started just working on the tech integration piece. And then having a background as an educator and developing curriculum, we just really saw the need to provide innovation coaching essentially on things like doing more project-based learning and experiential learning. And for us, we use design thinking and human-centered design in our program a lot. And so the challenge was the ed tech team was sort of small. And so we wanted to figure out how we could get out there and work with more teachers and support them in this shift from a more passive to a more active student-centered classroom. And so with that, we came up with this idea of thinking, how do universities do this? And we've seen a lot of universities locally, particularly Carnegie Mellon University, that has their Eberly Center for Teaching Excellence. And what they do is they have these consultants that go out across campus. And so we decided to call our program Innovation Fellows, and teachers from across our school, from elementary, middle, and high school, were able to apply for the program. And I flipped the application process where I created a screencast and I recorded me talking about the program and what the benefits were. And then we had a whole host of teachers that applied and a committee of early adopters look at the applications and choose a group of really awesome 4 teachers. And so we have an elementary school teacher, and Patrick Fagerson is really focusing on maker education and developing a maker and design mindset and program across the school. We have Liza Goldberg, which is an upper school, as we call high school, math teacher. And Liza is really, really interested in flipped learning, has done a lot with flipped learning in her math classes and the blended classes she teaches in statistics. We have Sam Rahula, who is an upper school science teacher teaching physics and engineering design, who's really savvy with ed tech and technology and Google Glass, 3D printing, all sorts of things like that. And then last, we have Sarah Sturdivant, who is the chair of our visual arts department that teaches in both our middle school and our high school. So these 4 teachers really emerged, and what they do is they have a combination of coaching, where they go into other teachers' classrooms and co-teach lessons or units or projects. They will offer one-on-one consulting, so each one of them has office hours each week that they hold. And then in addition to that, part of the project that we're working on right now is what we're calling innovation interviews. And I'm sure you've all experienced the idea of having an administrator or like a peer coach or a peer teacher come in and observe your class. And it's such a hard thing because it's like a little snapshot where they're coming in for like a few hours of your entire semester or your entire year, and it's not always representative of what you're doing, and in some cases when you know about it, you're creating a special lesson. And so we didn't want to really get the pulse of where we were at as a school in terms of being an innovative curricular program, but doing observations. We wanted to gain empathy for our faculty and meet them where their needs are. And so what we're doing is we're interviewing every single faculty member. And again, it's a smaller private school, so we're able to do this. We're interviewing every single faculty member, and then we're going to come back and report back on what is it that we hear during these innovation interviews. So it's really a combination of teachers being coaches in the classroom. They do have some release time from things like study halls or other duties, so they can spend the time doing this. And then they do get a stipend for it as a part of being an Innovation Fellow. So that's everything in a nutshell, and definitely really happy to answer other detailed questions about it.
Well,
There's a lot
Maybe,
there.
yeah. Let's. Can you tell us the size of your staff?
Yeah, as I mentioned, being a small age 3 to grade 12 private school, we have a right around 100 teachers. So,
Okay.
when you think about this from a larger school district perspective, you could definitely have an Innovation Fellows program. It just might be building based as opposed to school based the way ours currently runs.
And so that, yeah, that was, I was curious about it. Probably should ask at the beginning how big your school was. And so the teachers, do they still teach a full-time class load, and they just get extra time, like you said, off duties and things like that?
Yeah, they get off duties and things like that. But I would say that one of the things that really complements a program like Innovation Fellows really well is that as a school, we have completely redesigned our schedule to really allow for innovative types of learning and making and doing. And, as I mentioned, the flipped classroom piece has been a pivotal part of that. And so our schedule, we have 80-minute block periods from grades 5 through 12. And then we have a special day in our schedule that happens every other Wednesday called our Community Connections Day, where we actually do a block in the morning of 3 hours and a block in the afternoon of an hour and a half. So those are some really good times that if you're not teaching a class during that Community Connections 3 hours block, that's a really great opportunity for our Innovation Fellows to go out and meet with other teachers, lead collaborative projects. And so they aren't teaching classes during those times. So there has been some creative scheduling, but they are teaching a full-time load still.
Hey, Lisa, I have a question about what grades do they teach currently, and then do they go and co-teach in either a much older or much younger grade? I mean, you're crossing over the elementary, secondary threshold, the barrier there that sometimes is difficult. So, I mean, I know you were talking about a science physics emphasis. Is that teacher going into a third grade classroom, or tell me a little bit about how that works?
Yeah, sure. So the nice thing about being a school that all of our buildings are on one campus is that you can walk from building to building. And so because of that, it makes it really easy to do this idea of cross-divisional partnership. And partnerships, not only amongst our school and amongst our students, but out in the community are really essential as a part of what we want to show an innovative curricular program looking like. And so, yes, we have had Sam, our physics teacher, over in the 4th grade. They're working actually on a project right now. Our high school students are working on building marshmallow launchers with the 4th graders. And so Sam has gone back and forth to do that. We've also had Sarah, who is teaching, AP survey of art history to seniors, but then going into the 2nd grade and working with 2nd grade as kind of a guest lecturer on architecture that they're using to build their metropolitan city community models. So yeah, we definitely have that idea of going through the divisions. Now, I can tell you, even me, I'm not an elementary certified teacher, and so sometimes when I go over, especially when we did code, the hour of code activities, and I'm heading over with like 2nd graders, I'm not sure I'd be able to do it day to day, but I'm a really good partner when I work with our lower school computer teacher, and I think it opens your eyes to new things when somebody who's not always in your building or not always in your classroom, can offer some new things. So I've seen it actually be a really positive thing, but you have to trust each other and you have to be willing to go out of your comfort zone for sure.
That is nice. I love the idea of the vertical articulation that they can see, and that's something that is difficult in most school systems to have that luxury.
For sure, and I feel like if we weren't, I've had some other schools in the Pittsburgh region that are, our public ed partners and our public education friends, and they like the idea of this program, but one of the things that some of them have had a challenge in convincing is administrators at different buildings giving them the time in their schedule to drive to another school building. But I think it can be done, and I know that we have a couple of charter schools that are considering developing the same programming that have multiple divisions. So, I think that maybe we're early adopters here because of the flexibility of our type of school, but I think the program is something with administrative commitment can definitely happen in all sort of schools.
And it's a 2-year commitment, correct?
Yeah, it's a 2-year commitment, and we really just felt like 1 year being a part of the program wasn't going to generate enough momentum. So we asked for a 2-year commitment, and then, we'd even be happy if they want to stay on for a 2nd term, but we definitely hope to grow the program to 6 Innovation Fellows instead of just the 4. So next year we're planning on adding 2 more and having 6. So then we wouldn't have everybody rolling off at the same time. So it's kind of creating a little bit of that, I don't know, just more effective maybe transition period, so all of the innovation fellows aren't done all at the same time.
And this is the first year for the program, correct?
Yeah, this is the first year for the program, and I have to say that even when I pitched the idea of this program to our superintendent level person, who's lovely and she's a great leader and manager, at first she was like, okay, so tell me how this is going to work, and it even took a little bit of arm twisting with her. But I think that now we're really seeing the benefits of it, because it's that just-in-time training and support the teachers need, that they might have the best intention about trying, say, flipped learning or trying to do something with project-based learning, but maybe they're just not an early adopter, or they don't consider themselves an innovator, and maybe they want to have that growth mindset, but it's a little bit easier when there's a partner there with you. And so I think that what it's really done for our school just in the year that we've kicked off is it's taken kind of that middle-of-the-road teacher who's maybe not the early adopter or early majority, and it's taken him or her to a new level where they now have the support, so they're willing to kind of jump in and try some new things.
I think it's what sounds interesting to me too is you kind of help people establish a leadership role, and I ran into a situation this week where one of our younger teachers is trying to develop her leadership skills and take on more responsibility, and someone from my previous school said, why don't you just do it? You know how to do that. And I said, well, I want her to. I've had my time to shine in that role. I want her to try it and kind of get some credibility as a leader. And so that's
exactly. Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And I definitely think that it can be a leadership opportunity for teachers. And I think for somebody like me who, again, I don't always have the cred, for example, with our elementary school teachers, because I'm not elementary certified, yet I'm trying to go in and offer suggestions on how to integrate technology or how to do design thinking or how to do project-based learning. And, I feel like our teachers are really receptive, and I've had some wonderful planning discussions and collaborations with them. But now that we actually have a group of a teacher who teaches in the lower school working with me, I think that it creates that kind of ambassador goodwill idea, but with a person who has been in their shoes a little bit closer than what I have. So I think the leadership opportunity, but also that comfort level of having somebody who really gets what they do has been really important.
Now, are the same 4 teachers going to continue next year, or is there an opportunity for new fellows to come through?
Yeah, definitely, for sure. So the 4 teachers who applied and were selected the first year are going to do their second year commitment as a part of the program. And one of the things that we want to move to a little bit more in the second year with those 4 is the idea of some specific individual passion projects that they want to work on. So I feel like so far this year they've given so much service to the schools in terms of office hours that they've given up, or coming and co-teaching, and in some cases staying after school or planning on their own time, that we want them to really be able to pursue things. So that idea of really promoting professional development opportunities for them, going to conferences, and really going out, and we have a huge commitment to teachers going out and presenting the work and the good things that they're doing. So hopefully, we can get them to FlipCon and ISTE and some of those other ASCD, some of those other great conferences out there to present and feel like they're a part of a community above and beyond just our school.
Did you have to turn people away from the program?
That was a really hard thing. So, we did have some newer teachers to the school with less than 2 or 3 years of experience who did apply. And when we wrote up the application, and this is why you always learn when you do something the first time, we didn't really set a minimum amount of teaching experience. And I think, if you're a teacher who hasn't been tenured yet, you're maybe still in the new teacher process, it might not be the right thing for you to do right at the start of your career to be an innovation fellow. So, some of the teachers who were really, really game changers for our schools and who are doing awesome work. I think that, you know, we would love for them to be practicing in the classroom a little bit longer before they're a part of the program. So in general, the teachers who are a part of the program have been in the classroom for a while, maybe as short as 7 years. But Sarah, for example, has been in the classroom for probably close to 25. So it's not about age or it's not about discipline, but we do want to look for teachers who have been teaching for a little bit while, because if they're out coaching others, we want them to have some level of expertise and move to that kind of teacher model, teacher apprentice model. So the teachers will look for next year, and Joan, to answer your question from before, I don't think I finished it. We'll take 2 more teachers next year, and the 2 teachers we take next year, we hope that, for example, we'd love to see another middle school teacher, because right now Sarah teaches in both the middle and upper schools, and so we'd love to see another middle school teacher and perhaps even have another lower school elementary teacher again, because I think that we're really ramping up to build a design making program there, and I think our teachers could use some extra support. So it's also just thinking about what are the strategies of the school, what are the big things that the school is looking to do in terms of program development or changes in program, that we can find the right teachers who are ready for a leadership opportunity that will help stretch them, and then put them in a place to be leaders across the school.
Go ahead,
I'm actually going to ask, because I'm very interested, based on professional development, your interview process. You were talking about these innovation interviews, and I'm really want more specifics and maybe like what types of questions that you ask.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so with the innovation interviews, we actually came up with 2 different sets of questions. So we came up with one set of questions that we would do with all of our department heads, and then we came up with one set of questions that were for just our faculty. And we wanted to do that because we want to ask department heads overall from their perspective, where do they see the needs, where do they see the challenges. And the great thing about our school is that we've had a really rich program in terms of writing and research in the humanities. But in recent years, we've really wanted to kind of pep up and kick up our STEM offerings. And so we've had a lot of focus in the last 3 or 4 years on redesigning STEM classes so they're more about active learning, more student-centered, hands-on. And this is where, again, this flipped classroom piece is so important, because we used to spend about 80% of the time lecturing, 20% lab, and literally we did flip that. So now it is 80% lab, 20% lecture, and things like Google Glass, things like Verso and Classroom Salon, and other tools like our learning management system, which is Haiku, have been a really pivotal part of that. And so we've had a lot of change that's happened, and we just wanted to see how are people feeling about all this? And instead of going in and dictating, well, here's the school's 5 strategies. It's incorporating more blended learning and flipped classroom, incorporating more design thinking, doing alternative assessments, exploring digital badges, incorporating community partnerships. We didn't want to go that direction with going and telling. So what we wanted to do instead is really just see where teachers are at. So some of the questions, for example, might be, what is your definition of learning innovation? What does innovation mean to you? Find out from them what that actually means, because I think that, you know, and innovation's in my job title, so it's one of those things where it's a really like controversial term, where some think of it as definitely a buzzword, and, you know, maybe it is in some cases. I just think of it as the idea of, you know, looking at existing situations, thinking about how do we move something from an existing situation to maybe a more preferred situation, a little bit of disruption that can shake things up and move things into a new domain, or engage students in deeper learning. And so, you know, I think that the folks that are a part of this Innovation Fellows program, going out and interviewing their peers with those questions is I think they'll get more out of them than having the principals or other administrators in the room just doing an observation or going in and asking them. So we hope that idea that businesses use, where they do 360 evaluations, can come into play. But I'm hesitant to say the word evaluation, because we don't see the innovation interviews as evaluations at all. It's really just that idea of need finding right now. Where are we at? What is the baseline and what are the needs? And then hopefully this information can do things like driving professional development that we create, thinking about where we use our resources in terms of buying technology or buying hardware or new furniture or new space. And one of the things that I am finding most interesting right now is we're having lots of teachers really interested in classroom design. So that's definitely the number one theme that's emerging from these innovation interviews so far.
So you were talking a little bit off air about some of the other innovative professional development opportunities that you provide. Can you tell us about some of those?
Sure. So, as one of the co-founders of EdCamp PGH, Pittsburgh, we've had really great success in the city here, launching EdCamp with not a lot of recognition from the teachers and schools in our region. And of course, if you're a connected educator on Twitter, we hear about EdCamp a lot. But in general, you know, a lot of the teachers in the Pittsburgh area had not heard of it before. So we've grown a lot over the last 2 or 3 EdCamps we've done. And several of the teachers from my school attended the EdCamp that we hosted at my school. And because of that, a number of them came back and said, we should do this during an in-service day. This would be really cool. And so I convinced the principals and our superintendent level person to do this for one of our in-services. And it was really great because at first, some of the faculty, especially the faculty that had longer tenure at our school, were like, what the heck is this unconference thing? Definitely having like pessimism about the day and its value and what it was going to bring. But what I love is by the end of the day, some of those same people that were extremely pessimistic said, Lisa, you shocked me. This was one of the best professional development opportunities I've had in 25 years. We need to do this all the time. And I think because of the success of having our own internal EdCamp during in-services, we've seen it be used in diversity meetings and in faculty meetings and during student events. So even students have picked up on this idea of unconferences. And we have, in our high school, we have a student-run diversity conference, and the kids had a piece of their conference this year being unconference because of the faculty promoting this idea of professional development as well. So I think that that EdCamp model, where it's all about the idea of teacher-driven and teacher need, has been really important. And just the last part related to that, Troy, is this idea of changing our schedule in both our middle and our upper schools to really meet that need of wanting some more teacher-driven collaborative time. So what we did is we have 80-minute class period block periods in our school. And we decided to make our lunch period 80 minutes long. So what's really great is 40 minutes out of that 80 minutes every day of the week is dedicated to planning time or collaborative time. So those definitely really get used. And so yeah, the EdCamp model and leveraging that and putting our own spin on it has also been a really good win in terms of innovative PD.
And I like that too, that you're restructuring what a school should look like. And I tell my staff quite often that when we're talking about trying to be more innovative, I say, if the kids come in and it looks like it did before, they're going to think it's the exact same thing they got before. You've got to change the space or the timing or how something is presented because it has to look different for them to believe it's different.
Yeah, and I think in addition to them seeing that difference, literally whether it's physically the room is arranged differently or just class time is being used differently, what I have found at my school and when I say my school again, since we're a private school, I'm really referring to like across the program, elementary, middle, and high school, with changing this approach to being block schedule, very hands-on, not a lot of lecturing, very much alternative informative assessment. The kids have needed some training in what that looks like. So, like, what is their responsibility in that? Like, what do they come to class and expect? What, you know, when you're really going from having a project in your class to, like, full-on project-based learning, how does that look? And so, really, there's some level of, like, professional development, I almost feel like, that has to happen for the kids when this shift has happened. And I wouldn't say we're maybe doing it at the level that we would want, but I think that we have had some pointed discussions with students about what our expectations are for them. And really, what do they want to get out of it? So, like, right now I'm teaching a sophomore digital literacy and citizenship class. And the first class, what I did is a design activity called What's on Your Radar, where I asked them, what is it that you want to learn in these 3 categories in the next 5 classes? And so the curriculum is being designed on the fly by what they're interested in learning. And so it's not only a shift for the faculty, but it's also a shift for the students for sure.
Okay, go ahead, John.
Oh, I was just sort of thinking on that. So when you talk about the EdCamp model, do you actually have a day set aside in your school year schedule or maybe more than one day for teachers to get together and have the unconference in the building?
Yeah, so usually the last few years we've done that in February at our February on conference or our February in service. So we just were planning yesterday in our academic kind of leadership meeting about, oh, okay, well, what are we going to do during the February in service? And, at first we were like, well, we've done EdCamp so many times, should we do it again? And we do have a couple, the whole school is doing curricular mapping right now. I'm sure everybody's favorite. But we're doing some curricular mapping right now. And so what we're going to do this year is we're going to spend half of the day doing it on conference and half of the day to give departments some time to do curricular mapping. Because if you don't give them time to do it, we don't want them to have to do it on their own time or stay late at school working on mapping. So we want to give some dedicated time. But in general, the last few years it has been in February when we've done the unconference. But what recently I just talked to some few teachers about is they're really interested. Now they're dedicated when they say this. They're really interested in coming in and doing something on a Saturday. So we may even have another one or do something on a Saturday as well. I know.
That's outrageous. Now, what about professional development, like recertification points? Do they get anything for that day? They do?
Well, it depends. So some of our teachers, because we're a private school, don't keep their certification up, especially if they've been in our school for 20 plus years. They haven't had a need to keep their certification current. But I would say definitely the younger teachers that may move on in their career back into a public district or who knows where they'll land back at a charter or something of that nature, they want to keep their certifications up. So unfortunately, because we're a private school, we can't directly give out the Act 48 in the state of Pennsylvania, the credits. So we have partners that we work with that are entities approved by the state. But, it is a lot of work in terms of filling out the paperwork, proving what they're learning. And the EdCamps are hard to get credit for. Because usually when you turn in your paperwork to try to get credit for a certification event, they want to know what the learning goals are and what the exact things are that the teachers are doing. And in an EdCamp style, we don't know what they're going to do. So it's a fine line there right now that I hope that the state agencies will really consider the value of this EdCamp model and think about making their policies slightly more flexible to support teacher-driven professional development.
I'm glad you say that.
Well, you've been very informative for the listeners, Lisa. Can you tell them how they can find you if they want to find out more about you or get in touch with you?
Sure, yeah, sure. So on Twitter, I'm at Learn21Tech, and my blog is called Building Innovations Around Excellence and Experience, and it's excellenceandinnovation.blogspot.com.
And what other kind of topics that might you cover that they might find interesting?
Yeah, so one of the things, kind of my two main passions that I really talk about and I tweet about and I write a lot about are the idea of design thinking and using human-centered design. Particularly, we have found that to engage girls in underrepresented areas in technology like computer science, engineering, using design thinking where that empathy building and contextualization happens has been an excellent methodology and way to really just engage them into these kind of areas. And so design thinking is something I tweet, I talk a lot about. Check out DTK12 Chat Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm one of the moderators there. And also talk a lot about faculty professional development, blended learning, flipped classrooms. So yeah, just a little bit of a menagerie of a bunch of different things.
Well, thanks for your time. It's very valuable for what our listeners are looking for.
Thank you, everyone. It's great to talk to you.
Thanks a lot, Lisa.
Okay, bye.